From the woman who took her own life after relentless cyberbullying,
the show had previously been rocked by the suicides of former contestant Sophie Graydon, aged 32.
to the man who died young while quietly drowning in financial stress.
Former Love Island contestant Mike Thalasitis has died at the age of 26.
Let's dive into the heartbreaking stories of Love Island contestants who are no longer with us, and see how their post-show struggles became too much to handle. Starting from the former Miss Great Britain who shocked everyone by choosing love with Katie over Tom. Sophie Graydon was a former Miss Great Britain winner who had already tasted fame long before reality TV came along. The 30-year-old from Newcastle had won the biggest beauty pageant in Britain back in 2009, representing her country at international events and rubbing shoulders with celebrities.
Have a good time and find some people that I really click with and hopefully maybe fall in love with.
Before Love Island, Sophie had dated rugby star Danny Cipriani in 2013, which put her in the tabloid spotlight for the first time. She knew what it was like to have photographers following her around and journalists writing stories about her personal life. She'd also launched her own fashion line and was working as a model, so she wasn't some random person looking for her 15 minutes of fame. When Sophie entered the villa in 2016 for Series 2, she brought a level of sophistication that most contestants didn't have. She was older than most of the other girls, more experienced with media attention, and had this natural confidence that came from years of being in beauty pageants. On day one, she was coupled up with Tom Powell, a 22-year-old personal trainer from Manchester.
If I ever worried about anything, like, just talk to me.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I can talk to you about anything.
I'm good. Because you can.
Good.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Tom and Sophie seemed like they had potential at first. They got along well and acted more mature than most of the other couples in the villa. But Tom had serious jealousy issues that started showing pretty quickly. Every time Sophie talked to another guy, even just being friendly, Tom would get moody and make comments that pushed her away. The relationship became toxic fast. Tom would give Sophie the silent treatment when she didn't do what he wanted, and he made it clear he didn't like her being social with other people. For someone who had been Miss Great Britain and was used to being confident and outgoing, this was really hard to deal with.
I don't usually get bothered by things. I'm not usually a worrier. I don't get jealous, I don't get this, don't get that. And in here I just seem to be, over Sophie, I seem to be getting worried all the time, jealous. I don't know, she's changed me. She's genuinely changed me into something.
When Tom got voted out of the villa, Sophie was upset, but she stayed strong. She could have left with him, but she decided to stick around and see what happened next. That decision ended up making Love Island history in a way nobody expected. A new girl named Katie Salmon entered the villa, and Sophie made the shocking decision to couple up with her. This made them the first same-sex couple ever on the show. The moment was huge for LGBTQ+ representation on reality TV, and fans were excited to see something different happening. But Sophie seemed uncomfortable with all the attention the decision brought. She'd never publicly identified as anything other than straight, and suddenly she was making headlines as part of a groundbreaking same-sex couple. The pressure was intense, and she started having second thoughts almost immediately. Katie really liked Sophie and wanted to explore their connection, but Sophie kept thinking about Tom and feeling confused about what she actually wanted. Just 2 days after making Love Island history, Sophie decided she couldn't handle it anymore. She told the other islanders she missed Tom and wasn't enjoying herself, then packed her bags and left the show voluntarily. The drama didn't stop when she got home. Social media exploded with rumors that Sophie had a new boyfriend already, which made Tom furious. He went on Twitter and Instagram to accuse her of cheating on him and using him for publicity. Sophie fired back, saying they were never officially back together and the accusations weren't true. Their fight played out publicly for weeks, with both of them posting on social media and giving interviews to different magazines. Sophie tried to explain her side of the story, but the online bullying was getting worse every day. People were calling her fake, saying she'd used Katie for attention, and sending her cruel messages about her appearance and her choices. Sophie later opened up about how bad cyberbullying had become. She said people were sending her death threats and horrible messages about her sexuality and her time on the show. The pressure to be perfect all the time was making her feel depressed and anxious. She tried to get back to her normal life, working in fashion and doing some appearances, but the negative attention followed her everywhere. Sophie had dealt with media scrutiny before, but this was different. Social media meant that anyone could say anything to her at any time, and there was no escape from it. In 2017, Sophie started dating Aaron Armstrong, a guy from her hometown who wasn't in the public eye. Erin seemed like exactly what she needed, someone normal who cared about her as a person, not as a reality TV star or former beauty queen. They moved in together and things seemed to be getting better. But behind the scenes, Sophie was struggling more than anyone knew. She'd been prescribed antidepressants and was having trouble sleeping. The constant negative attention online was taking a toll on her mental health, and she started isolating herself from friends and family. On June 20th, 2018, Sophie was found dead at her home in Pontland, Northumberland. She was just 32 years old. The coroner ruled it was suicide.
The show had previously been rocked by the suicides of former contestant Sophie Graydon, aged 32.
3 weeks later, her boyfriend Aaron also took his own life. The double tragedy shocked everyone who knew them. Sophie's parents spoke out after her death, saying she'd been getting horrible messages on social media right up until the end. They blamed the online trolls and the lack of support from reality TV shows for what happened to their daughter. Her mom said Sophie had been receiving death threats and sexual messages that made her afraid to leave the house. The tragedy sparked a huge conversation about mental health support for reality TV contestants. People started questioning whether shows like Love Island were doing enough to protect their stars after they left the villa and lost that constant attention and support. Sophie's death highlighted how brutal social media can be for people in the public eye. She'd gone from being Miss Great Britain to making Love Island history to becoming a target for online abuse. The pressure broke her, and it broke Aaron too. But if you think Sophie's story of breaking barriers was shocking, wait until you hear about the woman who wasn't even looking for love, but became the face of the entire show. Caroline Flack never strutted into the villa in a bikini looking for love, because she wasn't there to find a boyfriend. She was there to be the boss, the queen, the person who delivered good news and bad news with equal amounts of sass and sympathy. From the moment Love Island came back to TV in 2015, Caroline was the face of the show.
Are you ready for love? Yeah! Want to meet some boys? Yeah!
Caroline was born on November 9th, 1979 in Enfield, London, but grew up in East Wangford, Norfolk. She came from a working-class family. Her mom was a cleaner and her dad worked various jobs to make ends meet. Caroline was always the funny one, the entertainer who could make people laugh even when things were tough. She'd been working in TV for years before Love Island came along. Caroline had done everything from kids TV to presenting on Channel 4, and she'd even won Strictly Come Dancing in 2014. But Love Island was the job that made her a household name and turned her into one of the most recognizable faces on British television. When Caroline walked into the villa for the first time, she owned the place immediately. She had this way of talking to the contestants that was part big sister, part best friend, and part scary teacher. She could deliver news about someone getting dumped with a sweet smile, then comfort them when they started crying 5 minutes later. Over the next few seasons, Caroline became part of Love Island's identity. She brought in new contestants with dramatic entrances, announced shock dumpings that left people in tears, and delivered those cruel plot twists with the sweetest smile. She even hosted Aftersun, the post-episode gossip show where dumped islanders came to explain themselves. But Caroline's personal life was always complicated. She dated a string of high-profile guys, including Harry Styles when he was just 17 and she was 31. That relationship got her a lot of negative press and death threats from One Direction fans. She also dated rugby player Danny Cipriani, the same guy Sophie Graydon had been with, and had an on and off relationship with music manager Jack Street. Caroline was open about her struggles with mental health and had spoken about feeling lonely despite being surrounded by people all the time. She dealt with online abuse for years, especially after dating Harry Styles, and she often talked about how hard it was to deal with constant criticism and judgment. In December 2019, Caroline's world fell apart completely. She was arrested and charged with assault after an incident at her home with her boyfriend Lewis Burton. The details were messy. Police found Lewis with a head injury and Caroline covered in blood, and reports said she'd hit him with a lamp while he was sleeping. Lewis didn't want to press charges and said it was an accident, but the Crown Prosecution Service decided to go ahead with the case anyway. The media coverage was intense and brutal. Photographers followed her everywhere. Tabloids ran stories about her every day, and social media was full of people calling her violent and crazy. Caroline stepped down from hosting Love Island's winter series in South Africa, saying she didn't want to be a distraction from the show. It was heartbreaking for fans who'd watched her become such a big part of Love Island's success. Laura Whitmore took over as host, but it wasn't the same. The legal case was scheduled to go to trial in March 2020. Caroline was facing the possibility of prison time, the end of her career, and constant public humiliation. She'd gone from being one of the most loved presenters on TV to being treated like a criminal, and the pressure was destroying her. Caroline had been staying with her family in Norfolk, trying to avoid the media circus in London. She'd been banned from contacting Lewis as part of her bail conditions, which meant she couldn't even talk to the person she loved most. Friends said she was devastated by the whole situation and felt like her life was over. On February 15, 2020, Caroline was found dead at her flat in Stoke Newington, London. She was 40 years old. The coroner ruled it was suicide. She'd taken her own life just weeks before her trial was supposed to start.
The 40-year-old TV presenter of Love Island, Caroline Flack, has died. Her family have announced the news a short while ago.
The news shocked everyone. Love Island paused filming to honor her, and tributes came from everywhere. Contestants, celebrities, politicians, and millions of fans. People who'd been criticizing her online suddenly realized they'd gone too far, and there was a lot of talk about how brutal the media and social media can be.
The past week has been extremely difficult coming to terms with the loss of our friend and colleague Caroline. We're thinking of our family and everyone who knew her at this time. Caroline loved Love Island. She loved love, and that's why tonight's final is dedicated to her.
Caroline's family released an Instagram post she'd written before she died, where she said she was being made into a monster and that the whole situation had been blown out of proportion. She wrote about how hard it was to have her life picked apart in public and how she just wanted to be able to tell her side of the story. Caroline had been the heart of Love Island for 5 years. She'd made the show what it was, and without her, it felt different. She'd gone from being the person who helped others find love to becoming another casualty of reality TV's dark side. The woman who'd spent years making people smile had been broken by the very world she'd helped create. But as heartbreaking as Caroline's fall from grace was, our final contestant's arrogance and bad behavior made him one of the most hated islanders in Love Island history. Mike Thalasitis didn't walk into the Love Island villa quietly. When he showed up on day 17 of Series 3 in 2017, he arrived like a bomb going off. He was tall, dark, handsome, and had the kind of confidence that immediately made him a threat to every other guy in there. The other contestants knew he was trouble the second he walked through the door. Mike was born on January 11th, 1993, in Edmonton, London, to a Greek Cypriot family. His dad was from Cyprus and his mom was English, and Mike grew up speaking both Greek and English at home. He was always athletic and started playing football seriously when he was young, dreaming of becoming a professional player. By the time he was a teenager, Mike was good enough to get noticed by scouts. He played for several youth teams and eventually signed with Stevenage FC as a professional football player. He wasn't a superstar, but he was making a living playing the sport he loved and had a decent career ahead of him. Mike played as a striker for several clubs, including Cambridge United, Margate, and Chelmsford City. He wasn't playing in the Premier League, but he was a professional athlete with a good reputation and was well known in football circles. He had that typical footballer lifestyle: nice clothes, good money, and plenty of attention from women. But football is a tough business, and Mike's career wasn't going as well as he'd hoped by 2017. He was 24 years old and still playing in lower league teams, which meant his chances of making it to the big time were getting smaller every year. When the opportunity to go on Love Island came up, it seemed like a perfect way to raise his profile and maybe open some new doors. Mike entered the villa on day 17 as a late arrival, and he wasted no time shaking things up. He had a jawline so sharp it could cut glass, and a confidence level that immediately made him a target for both the girls and the viewers.
The only thing I don't get is why you didn't tell me sooner. I know you said you wanted to give it a go.
Because until today, there was nothing to tell you.
No, but you said you'd give it 100%, and you definitely didn't give me that.
His first move was going after Olivia Atwood, who was already coupled up with Chris Taylor. Mike didn't care. He saw what he wanted and went for it. The move caused massive drama in the villa and earned him the nickname Muggy Mike from the other guys, who thought he was playing dirty by stealing someone else's girl. The nickname stuck, and not in a good way. Mike became the guy everyone loved to hate, the villain who would do anything to get what he wanted. But that's exactly what made good TV, and the producers knew it. Mike brought drama and tension wherever he went.
You've took Chloe over there and told her that if you met me in the outside world, you'd bin me off in 2 minutes.
Is Chloe saying all this?
Yeah.
She's a snake then? She's a liar.
I don't think Chloe's a liar because we've all lived for
Well,
her.
she's lied about you, so she's telling the truth about you then.
After the Olivia situation didn't work out, Mike coupled up with Jessica Shears, a model from London. They seemed to have genuine chemistry, and for a while, it looked like Mike might actually find love on the show. But their time together was cut short when a twist sent both of them packing from the villa early.
I've never shied away. I think she's a stunning girl, but obviously you and Tom had a connection in there, and I think obviously, yeah, if I was in issues, well, probably not thinking the same thing about marriage just yet, but, you know.
Mike left Love Island on day 20, after just 3 days in the villa. It wasn't the love story he'd hoped for, but it was enough to make him famous. Muggy Mike became a household name, and he immediately started getting offers for appearances, sponsorships, and other reality TV shows. After Love Island, Mike appeared on Celebs Go Dating, where he tried to find love with help from dating experts. The show was supposed to help him improve his approach to relationships and maybe change his image from the guy who steals other people's partners to someone genuinely looking for love.
Fancy people on dates though.
I could just find it hard to force it. Like if I'd say after Love Island, all the stuff that's happened and all like the crazy parties and people coming to you on the street and that, you do become a little bit more hostile. So if I don't...
Mike also started making money from club appearances, sponsored posts on Instagram, and various reality TV gigs. He was living the typical post-Love Island life, parties, photo shoots, and trying to turn his 15 minutes of fame into something more permanent. But behind all the selfies and nightclub appearances, Mike was struggling. Friends later said he'd been having money troubles and was worried about his future. The reality TV fame was great while it lasted, but it wasn't a long-term career plan, and his football career wasn't going anywhere either. Mike had also been dealing with personal issues that most people didn't know about. His grandmother, who he was very close to, had passed away, and he'd been struggling with grief. He'd also lost some friends and was dealing with financial stress that wasn't obvious from his social media posts. In March 2019, Mike had been working on a new business venture. He was planning to open a restaurant in Essex with some friends. It seemed like he was trying to build something real beyond just being a reality TV personality, but the pressure of everything was getting to him. On March 15, 2019, Mike was found dead in a woodland area near his home in Essex. He was just 26 years old. The coroner ruled it was suicide. The news shocked everyone who knew him and millions of fans who'd watched him on Love Island.
Former Love Island contestant Mike Thalasitis has died at the age of 26. Friends and fellow reality TV stars expressed their shock at the news on social media.
Mike's death hit the Love Island community hard. Fellow contestants post tributes talking about how funny and kind he was behind the cameras, completely different from the muggy Mike character he played on TV. People started realizing that the confident, cocky guy they'd seen on screen was probably covering up a lot of pain and insecurity. Mike's family spoke out about he'd been struggling with depression and financial worries that nobody knew about. His mom said he'd been putting on a brave face for everyone while dealing with serious problems behind the scenes. The pressure to maintain his public image while his personal life was falling apart had become too much to handle. Mike's death was the second Love Island-related suicide in less than a year, following Sophie Graydon's death in 2018. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore, and it forced everyone involved with the show to take a hard look at what was happening to people after they left the villa. His story showed that even the people who seemed most confident and successful could be hiding serious struggles. Mike had looked like he had everything, but underneath it all, he was just a young man who couldn't handle the pressure of public life and personal problems.